It's a lifelong learning curve, and every time that I make this presentation, I see that there is something that we still don't know, and there's a lot that we need to share. A young lady, we celebrated about 20 years back having done this surgery. We thought that the Stagnara's wake-up test had worked. Unfortunately, she got up with a neurological deficit. And what happens in most of these situations is that the patient remains out of focus, and it's the patient's relatives or the caregivers who look peering down our eyes, and it's very, very difficult. Whether it's a lady or a man, it's very difficult to handle them, more so young girls. Nobody wins all the time, nobody loses all the time. Mistakes will happen. It's either helplessness or negligence. Whether it's the chapati made by your mother or the craft done by your child, it's dissimilar, yet it's very pretty, very tasty. You have to be truthful and transparent in all your dealings, and that's the only way you can build trust. Whenever you have such an issue, please remember, you have to be charming, yet correct. Have open and frank communication with the patient. It's a creative art that develops as you age. And aging has to be with maturity, and it's just aging, but how much you have damaged yourself, which makes you age and mature. Having said that, we are never above or below the patient. We are besides them and handhold them. Most of these problems are not addressed with medication. They need advice and counseling. And mental health consultations are essential, not just after, but before the surgery. Depression and anxiety are associated with most, if not all, patients who have low back or neck issues. Nothing in the world can bother you as much as your own mind. In fact, others seem to be bothering you. It's not others, it's your own mind, whether it's the patient or it's an unhappy surgeon post-operatively. Whenever you have such a problem, listen to your patients, respect their views, have open communication about all treatment preferences, discuss all management options beginning from today ahead. You can't change the past. Allow them to ask any questions that they may have. Ensure that they've understood. It's not just communication, it's comprehension of the patient. Be aware of their language, accept all cultural influences, whatever there may be, and compensate for their communication skills or issues. Be with them, and hold them. It's a journey where you are a part of it, and at times that journey has to become a pilgrimage. Use non-verbal and verbal modes of communication. It should be a shared decision and a shared understanding, a posture that's open, and eye contact with the patient. You don't have anything to shy away from. Active listening. You have to keep nodding. You have to listen to their story. Give them their time. Let them ask any question. Have an answer. Remember, it's the patient's mind and your own mind. They are beautiful servants, but very dangerous masters. Always when you suggest the surgery, most patients in our country have a large amount of fear or grief associated with it. What is fear? Fear, for me, is an acronym. It's false evidence appearing real. Either the patient freezes, flights, or fights back. Well, there's a real fear and there's a perceived fear. And they all go through those 5 stages described by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, the stages of grief, which go from denial to acceptance, and they go through anger, bargaining, and depression. Whether it's decision for surgery or it's a post-operative event. We remember that all our patients come with huge baggage and perils of the past and a huge fear and anxiety of the future. Get them to today and get them pragmatic about the present today. And how is that done? By using the 3 very, very important V's of communication. There is a Mehrabian's 55-38-7 rule. 7% depends on the words that you use, verbal. 38% depends on the voice, the tonality, that's vocal. And 55% is silent. It's the body language, that's visual. So it's a verbal, vocal, visual, where visual or body language is the most important. Always remember, the decision is far more important than the incision. The why of the surgery, the purpose of the surgery is far more important than the how of the surgery or the process of the surgery, which is far more important than the product or the what of the surgery. Please remember, we as surgeons can only change anatomy. We cannot predict the change in function and believe that change in anatomy is changing the function. Having said that, we'll always have this issue where we'll have this dichotomy of diagnosis, which is based on suspicion, doubt, skepticism, investigations, and treatment, which is based on hope, faith, belief, and trust. Patients have their concerns. Will medicines help? Will bracing help? How safe is the surgery? Is this the only option? Are there any side effects? Can she get infection? Can she get paralyzed, doc? What if the surgery fails? Will she need repeat surgeries? What would you do, doc, if she's your daughter or sister? Can you guarantee 100% success? Will there be radiation hazards? And in our country, very important, how much would it cost? Well, your answers have to be less objective, more subjective, and very much more personal. Use this, the anagram of listen versus silent. Let them speak. Counseling has to end in your clinic. It cannot restart on admission. You must consent them, but do no harm. Remember, you're there to do good. Our primary purpose is to help others. If you can't help them, please do no harm. Tell them everything that can go wrong with or without the surgery. In hospital, be very positive. Despite that, some of our patients will be unhappy. And here I quote Samuel Beckett, ever tried, ever failed, no matter. Try again, fail better. And follow this golden rule. Do the right thing, Dr. Guliana said. Meticulously document any conflict. Never lose your temper. Stay out of danger. Don't get distressed by any insistent patient. Investigate both your and the patient's mental state. Do not shirk healthy patients or unhappy patients. Let them ask their questions. This is not how we handle patients' relatives. Remember, common sense is not a gift, it's a punishment, because most of people we deal with may not have it. Tough times never last, tough people do. And when you're going through hell, just keep going. Be optimistic. Don't just look, but please see the patient. Don't hear, listen to the patient. Don't just touch, feel the patient. Don't show pity, please show compassion. Don't show sympathy, please share empathy. Have truthful communications can only build trust. Don't practice for income, as I said yesterday. Please practice for outcome. It's time to move from knowledge to wisdom. Time to move from selfishness to selflessness to altruism. From information to reformation to transformation about the way you think. Don't just do your duty, find your calling. Don't just contact or have a sanjog with the patient. Develop a connection, a yoga, communion with the patient. Time that we go beyond our call of duty or kriya and do some karma and move to healing. Remember, a good doctor is exactly what Henry Marsh said. He said it takes 3 months to learn how to do an operation. It takes 3 years to learn when to do an operation. And it takes 30 years to learn when not to do an operation. Ladies and gentlemen, take decisions, make them right. We are not logical, we are biological as human beings. For heaven's sake, please treat the man, not the scan. Practice only for need, not for greed. Aim for excellence rather than perfection. Difficult is what takes a little time. The impossible is what takes a little longer. We do not live in a perfect world. Aim for excellence, never perfection. Thank you very much for a patient hearing.